Hey kids, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 3, their finest hour as the UK. So last episode we did a few opening moves, started to send our transports out to pick up units abroad, and just sort of moving the army where we need it to pick it up, as well as setting up our initial espionage technology and all that. I am going to start by I'm going to put 2 points in espionage rather than one, simply because I know I'm going to forget to look at this number, and if it goes down to 0, we'll start our spies will start losing effectiveness, and we really need to increase threat to decrease our consumer goods consumption. You can already see it's pretty low. It's 6.82 because we deleted all those HQs, so that's good. We're going to try and lower this supply number as well to put as much production as possible into actually producing stuff. We've lined up some production there, and we've got lots of technologies lined up, so that's good. And I think our focus for this episode is going to be getting these resources balanced. We've got a fair number of Diplo points, so we're just going to trade with the UK. And we're also going to be moving units back home and starting to think about how we're going to organize that huge army. So once again, just buying kind of 5 energy at a time from the US, trying to get these relations up. Let's take a look over here and see. Yeah, transports have arrived. I'm going to go down to speed 4 for a second just so that I can kind of multitask. And we're just going to send everything home. You can see I've set up some sort of auto pause things. I find as the UK it's really useful to auto pause when your ships arrive at destination. It's something I may turn off later in the campaign if we've sort of got a handle on the naval situation. But for now it's very useful because it's you can send out a transport to go pick something up or something, and then just kind of forget about it, and can really set you back because it takes a long time to send units all across the empire. So for the time being, I'm using that auto pause function. Obviously, doing all these small trades with the US has an impact in terms of well, every trade that we initiate, we have to use a convoy for. So when the war starts, we may need to cut back on some of those trades. You can see we're balanced for energy for now. I might start doing some metal trades. Did I get? Yeah, okay. But yeah, just sort of slowly working our way back to Dover with these armies. We might do some upgrades. We might add some support brigades and stuff like that. One thing about the UK that's kind of challenging is you cannot, when units come out of the production queue here, we can only deploy them in the United Kingdom. We can't deploy them directly overseas. So if you're used to playing as Germany, for example, maybe you've invaded France, you can deploy a unit like right here or wherever you have territory. But as the UK, you can't deploy overseas. So it's kind of a good idea in the opening part of the game to kind of bring your units home and then to sort of redistribute them where you think you actually need them. Alright, so let's start buying metal. What's our relations with the US? Okay. We're waiting for this guy to arrive. Saving up tons of cash. I'm also thinking, I think that we are going to see if we can buy some armor brigades directly from France. Maybe 5 parallel. and put a couple of those in the queue because it's going to take us a long time to build up to medium armor, and we're definitely going to need those. So I think we're going to spend some of this cash and just get these in the queue. In fact, maybe we'll stick one up top. That's pretty good. Just the brigades, and then we'll fill out those divisions later. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to get armor practical up, for sure. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Could also build. We could also build light armor and upgrade it to medium armor. But I think this is going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of IC and timing and all that. And if I can have just one full core of armor by the time the war starts, it's going to be a big bonus. There's one guy here. We can see that Italy is in the middle of invading Ethiopia. This war will be over soon. It looks like we need some more. Looks like we need some more energy. Just check. Yeah, we're at about 100. Pick up these guys. Grab this garrison from Malta. So let's just take a look here. We need 16.21 supplies. What I'll be curious to see is the supply reduction we get from putting these all in the UK, because of course supplies flow from the capital. So if we can move these units close to the capital, we won't be sending supplies all over the world. There's of course the supply throughput penalty as supplies travel through provinces as well. So anyway, we've got, looks like everyone's home here. Yeah, let's do another trades. And some metal. This is we have a deficit of rare materials, but that's because I'm selling a whole bunch of them. So I'm not worried about this. I think what's going to happen is some of those countries are going to cancel those deals, and so we won't actually be trading that many pretty soon. All right, let's take a look at what's going on here. We have a couple of these infantry, Indian infantry divisions that have Gurkhas in them. I'm going to detach the Gurkhas for sure. So that's goods. And we've got these weird kind of mixed militia and infantry brigades from East Africa, and I'm just going to actually combine those rather than fill out these divisions. I'm going to combine them, and I'm going to set these up to upgrade the militia. So why don't we rename these? We'll call it 1st East African Division. And 2nd East African Division. And then just hit this button and we'll put them to infantry. That's fine. You can see we don't really have enough IC to be building everything that we're building. I could have canceled this submarine, but it's almost built and we're not going to be building a lot of subs, so I feel like we might as well grab that. Even though our submarines are kind of out of date, I do think that we'll have some early game use for them, especially because our navy's pretty powerful. So we will likely be able to kind of protect them and use them just to kill convoys. And you know, why not? Why not? We have the fuel. We have the naval resources to make use of them. So just get us some more naval experience early in the game. We'll start to organize this fleet very soon, for sure. For now, I'm just going to merge everything. Those destroyers will pop out soon as well. Once we finish our first round of naval tech, we'll start to put some new destroyers and light cruisers and carriers and stuff in the production queue. Alright, everything's home. What else can I do here? I don't think we need a garrison in Ceylon, at least not for now. I'm also not going to garrison Hong Kong. Where's our Singapore? Here. The Singapore garrison has a brigade of infantry, so I'm going to put that one in one of these kind of understrength divisions. I'm going to go with two. I'm going to go with 2 brigade garrisons, just so that I can give them a leader, even if it's like an old guard leader. I think that's a good approach for garrisons. I'll keep the 1 brigade garrison in Gibraltar. I don't think we'll get attacked in Gibraltar, but and then let's just add an extra brigade to Malta, and we'll build some more garrisons. This garrison I'm going to put somewhere else in East Asia, but not Hong Kong, because Hong Kong and our Pacific Islands are the areas that we're kind of not going to be defending. There we go, first destroyer. Yeah, it looks like we're gaining in spies. If this starts to get close to 99, I'll put it back down to 1 point, but for the time being, better safe than sorry. Certainly not buying crude. We are balanced with everything, although these numbers look suspicious to me. I don't know if we got that. Did we get the event that... Oh yeah, I missed an event. I'm not sure if I have those events popping up. Maybe I'll have to check on that. But anyway, George V died and is replaced by Edward VIII, which is giving us this minus 5% IC, which sucks. But minus consumer goods during wartime, minus 50. This is not going to help us. So this is just a bad king, unfortunately, and there's nothing we can do about it. For now, anyway. Right. So relations 135 with USA. Maybe I'll just leave that for now then. Do some more diplomacy later. Try and get some other stuff done. Anything else I want to do here? I don't think so. These guys are upgrading. I think I'll just leave that as is for now. I could put these into corps and armies to reduce supply. We will do that. Sort of these 3 reserve corps. And then I'll leave the garrisons out. Oh, these 2 here, I want to upgrade to motorized for sure. So we'll do that. And then how many of these, how big is this army of India? Just kind of doing this for historical flavor, by the way, kind of keeping the Indian divisions together, and I'm sure that'll all kind of fall apart as the game goes on, but yeah, we can do a similar thing here, make a sort of 3-corps army of India. And that's attached to the correct theater. I'm not going to do leaders right now, or I'm not going to do all my leaders right now, but I am going to... I'm just going to put some supply guys in charge here. Like Alexander can do the Atlantic theater for now. We can take, for the army group, we'll take this guy, just to get the supply reduction. And then we'll do that. And maybe Wavell for the second army. That's going to help with reducing supply. I can also attach this directly to the army group. When you have a large fleet, just as a placeholder here, Royal Navy. When you have a very large fleet, it's worth it, especially early on, to attach it to an army group. It reduces fuel consumption and supply consumption, because I mean that's 110 ships, so definitely worth doing. Call this the transport fleet. And you know what? I can do the same thing for the Air Force. Obviously, we'll organize this later, but for the time being, let's just attach it to that army group to get some supply reduction. See what that does. Yeah, so we just gained 5 IC from doing that. It's definitely worth doing. Even though we've actually increased our consumer goods by making those extra HQ units, we've reduced our supply demands. Maybe I'll attach these to those Army of India cores. Just kind of throw these randomly around. What else have we got? We've got that Gibraltar garrison, and we've got that Malta garrison. Everything else is upgrading, so it's actually not consuming supplies. So I'm not going to bother. Whatever, I'll just do that. All right, looking good here. I'm not really worried that these aren't building because, like I said, they're kind of out of the they're not consuming supplies, so it's not a bad thing for them to be kind of just stuck at the bottom of the production queue for the time being. We don't need to buy anything. All right, let's keep going. What I can do is take a look at, this is the best way to look at your neutrality. So you can see that our neutrality is going down by about 5.05 per day, and that's pretty good. We are making a lot of money. We can save up this money and then if we need to buy more resources later. Airbase is finishing. Yeah, so that's level 1 airbase in Gibraltar, and we'll just keep that going. Slowly increasing our construction practical, and okay, I will buy supplies. So our supply consumption is going to go right down. At least for the opening years here. And at this point, we're just kind of waiting for our technology to finish supply production, so that's good. Let's take that off. And we wait. Destroyer, okay, that's all our destroyer techs. Abdication of Edward VIII. I think this event is sort of a mean time to happen type event. I'm not sure it happens on the same date every game, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, see? December 3rd, 1936. So yeah, it seems to be a random event, and the sooner it happens, the better. Because we get George VI. This doesn't matter, of course, because we're a faction leader. And organization regain rate, why not? Not the best head of state we could possibly have, but like certainly much better than Edward. George VI, perfect. All right, I think that's all 4 destroyer techs, which is great. Put some destroyers in the queue for sure. Our destroyer practical is 6.2. So as the UK, we're just going to want to keep our destroyer and cruiser practical at least above 5. 5 is kind of the point where you're not getting a penalty when you're building ships or doing research. Like you can see here, 6.2 gives us a 13.1 bonus. If we let's look at cruisers. Yeah, 4.5, we're getting a slight malus to research speed because of our cruiser practical. So definitely. Now, I think I'm just going to put 1 destroyer in the queue for now. I think it's pretty important for it to be at the top of the queue. These I'm not so worried about. Every time you build one, like just building one transport plane gives us +3. Just building 1 TAC gives us +3 or is it naval bomber? Yeah, 3.1. So it's just not necessary for us to be constantly building these. We can throw them lower down the queue later on. Now we do need to put some more research in place. So I think we've got all the research we need for upgrading our units. What we do need These are up to date. What we do need is to get working on doctrines. So I'm going to start by picking these doctrines that have a 10 difficulty, because they're going to take a long time. And I'm going to need a really broad assortment of doctrines, so we're going to do it that way. I'm also going to take this. Maybe I'll just put in the ones that are at 1918 level to start, to try and get those as close to up to date as possible. I'm going to take that because human wave is good. This has to do with essentially your stacking penalty. It's kind of, unit cooperation is a weird stat, but we do want it. This is good. Ambush is a defensive battle event, and also just the HP, the HQ supply consumption is always worth it to have both of those. This I'm not sure we'll research, to be honest. We'll see if we have space for it. Maybe we'll do one round of it because we are going to use garrisons, but I don't even think so. Our garrisons don't need to win battles. They just need to sort of be there. So as technologies finish, I'm going to put units in the queue. There we go. Basic. That's our both of our fighter techs. So we've got up-to-date fighters. So let's throw a single interceptor in the queue. Oops, that's what I wanted to do. Just take a look at. I want to just make sure these radar stations are still building. I think we're in good shape. I want this to pop up and pause. There we go. That's good. Looks like light cruisers are done. Starting to finish our support brigade techs as well. I'll wait until I don't think I'm going to build anti-tank, so I'm going to wait until artillery finishes before I put any of that in the queue. And that's light cruisers. These two can come off. Let's just put those light cruisers in the queue before I forget. We need more resources. I'm going to put 2 because we really need to boost this. The HMS Penelope and the HMS Aurora. Sounds great. Put 2 in the queue there. Nope. Let's buy metal from the USA. Let's just take a look at what happens to our. Yeah, so like we don't really have enough IC right now to be building those, but we will be increasing our IC very soon as we pass. We'll get a new law soon, basically. And I'm going to put a few more doctrines in here. Maybe I'll take this one. These organization penalty texts just to mean that you can send them on more missions before they deorg. So I'm going to do 1 round of that. It's very low priority, but might as well. And now let's put in our 1936 land doctrines. Try and get those up to date as soon as possible. I'm not going to do that for now. And our fighter doctrines are important. Because we're going to be building a lot of carrier air groups, we need a lot of doctrines for those, and I think it's pretty important that we keep them up to date. If we want to win carrier battles, our carrier air group, or CAG, doctrines are actually probably going to be more important than the quality of our carriers, because you got to win the air battle before you win the sea battle. So all of these are important. Like these are up to date, but like you can see here, you get CAG organization, CAG morale, CAG organization, CAG morale. There's six doctrines plus the mission doctrines that we need for carrier air group. So as much as possible, we're going to try and keep those up to date, even if it's at the expense of our what are these ones called? These are called tactical air power and strategic air power. Like even if it's at the detriment of those, these 2 techs, these few here, and all of these are going to be really important for the UK. Did we finish artillery? Probably. No, not yet. Light tank engine is up to date. Light tank armor. You're going to want to be unlocking self-propelled artillery as well. Let's buy the supplies. Reliability needs another round. Light tank gun can come out. Getting everything up to date. As soon as we do that tech, we can unlock medium tank brigade, which we will do, obviously. Rocket test sites. I will put one in the queue. I'm just going to put it in London so I kind of remember where it is. I'm actually going to queue up like that, but I'm going to put it at the very bottom of the queue. Even if we don't get this until, like, I don't know, 1940 or something, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just putting it in there so that I don't forget. And also, if we free up some IC, I don't want to be wasting IC. There we go. So, our first round of aircraft carrier techs. The anti-aircraft is behind, is out of date, but we can upgrade that later. So I am going to put carriers in the queue right away. They take a long time to build. I wanted to wait until at least one round finished before I put them in the queue. So we will build, I'm going to take the kegs off. We will build one Ark Royal class carrier. And I'm also going to put an escort carrier in the queue. Escort carriers are going to be really invaluable for hunting submarines and also protecting some of our older capital ships. So yeah, we're going to do that. Obviously, I'm going to have to rearrange this because we're not going to have enough. Like, I kind of want these radar techs to be at the top of the queue. These radar construction to be at the top of the queue. First round of armored car, we'll get them up to date. And there's artillery finished. Maybe I'll put some artillery in the queue. Maybe we'll just build artillery for that kind of territorial home army for the time being. So a few reserve. And I'm not sure if I'm going to put them high up in the queue right now. I think that's fine like that. Obviously our production queue is just like jam-packed full of stuff. So I'm mostly putting things in the queue so that I don't forget later. We will likely be able to start building at least some of them before we get to 1938 level techs. So this one, money. I really don't think this matters. I think we'll take the money one because we've got tons of money. Descent change will affect our IC, so that's not good. Sort of slowly building up those radars. Malta's air base. Sure, I'll buy more supplies. We'll buy some more metal. 150. As we buy supplies, our income is going to start going down a bit. So that's nice. France starts the game with 1936 level medium armor, best armor in the game at the start. So, yeah, definitely not a bad idea to license the armor from them, because we need to get that armor practical up. And yeah, definitely worth it. I'll sell crude oil. As the UK, we have these puppets like Iraq and Oman and Yemen, and I believe, I'm not sure which ones of them actually produce crude, but I know that, oh, maybe not. I know that we have lots of crude in the Middle East, and maybe we don't. Maybe the puppets aren't giving us crude. But yeah, we're probably going to expand our presence in the Middle East anyway. So we just have it's just so easy for us to find other sources of crude that I'm not worried. I'm not worried about running out of fuel or crude unless we're really aggressive with like a major tank offensive at the beginning of the game. I just don't think we're going to run out of crude, even with a pretty huge Navy and Air Force. Alright, that's militia supports. I have a garrison for Malta, I have a garrison for Singapore, and I have one for Gibraltar as well. I'm going to take a look at what ports we actually want to garrison. So I'm going to garrison these two for sure. So we can maybe put the Hong Kong one there and build another one there. That's 1. I want to garrison Rangoon. That's 2. I think that's good for there. Put a garrison here so that we don't get naval invasion from Italy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably good for now. Maybe five garrisons to start. I find them useful, for sure. They cost nothing. They really just cost nothing. So I'll just put them at the bottom of the queue for now. And as we get closer to the war, we will evaluate what we need kind of ASAP, and we'll put them at the top of the queue and finish them. There we go. So just kind of continue to work through these techs. It is we're coming to the end of 1936, so I'm going to put Marine Infantry at the top of the queue, and maybe basing. Basing is a level 7 or a 7 difficulty tech, so maybe we'll put that at the top of the queue just to kind of finish that early. Basing is another one of those techs that has an indirect effect on our IC because it improves the naval base efficiency. It's mountain infantry. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that, but I always research it because, you know, every once in a while you'll be in a situation where you want to build like a ton of mountain infantry, and if you haven't finished the tech and you're just like, oh, like you forgot, that's not ideal. Engineers, that's good. Interesting. So this happens sometimes. Sometimes nationalist China just kind of stays at peace until Japan attacks them, and sometimes they fight a war against the Guangxi clique. This has an effect on your game as the UK, because if they acquire territory from the Guangxi clique, then when Japan attacks them, I believe these provinces here go to Japan. So if you are going to try and defend Hong Kong, the outcome of this really matters, because you either have the Guangxi clique surrounding Hong Kong, or you have Japan. So that's, yeah, it's definitely worth paying attention to what goes on in that part of the world. Oh yeah, the war has started in Spain. Whoa, I think the Republicans might win, although you can never really tell. It's hard to tell. I think that the Republicans might win, which is interesting. Doesn't really have much of an effect on the game, to be honest. We can get the Republicans to join, but it's not really worth doing. We certainly want them to. We want to prevent them from joining, say, Comintern, but usually that's not very difficult to do. Speaking of which, maybe we'll start influencing some nations. Sell crude, buy supplies, sure. All right, our first armor brigade. Just gonna drop that there. And let's take a look at. Alright, so let's take a look at diplomacy and just sort of see what's going on in Europe. Hungary is drifting towards the Axis. Maybe we'll influence Hungary, try and get them away from the Axis. And as whatever countries get close here, like Portugal is going to stay neutral. They almost never join the Axis, unless you fight way into the late 40s. It takes them so long to lower their neutrality that they hardly ever join the war. But maybe we'll move Hungary over, and if they get kind of here, then we'll work on Yugoslavia a bit, and you know, just kind of do a defensive diplomacy. And that is going to, what I'd like to do is I'd like to force Germany to actually have to fight wars with these countries, rather than just have them join freely. Like, they're gonna get Austria and Czechoslovakia for free, but you know, we might as well make them work for their gains in Central Europe. Got 33 projects. It's pretty good. All of our land doctrines, all of the necessary land doctrines are in the queue, as well as some of our air doctrines. Buy supplies. I think that's fine. Let's put another interceptor in the queue. We've got 5.7 light aircraft practical, so that's pretty good. Alright, our carrier techs are up to date except for anti-aircraft. I'm going to take these off. I'm really not going to research anything like really ahead of time, not more than about 6 months ahead of time, because even though we got lots of leadership and we could kind of specialize and research certain things way ahead of time, I find as the UK that we are going to benefit more from having more different types of units being up to date. I'm not going to try and defeat Germany's land army early on, using really great tank destroyers or really great tanks or something. I'm mostly going to try and set this up so that we can defend the whole empire using a broad variety of different kinds of ships and planes and special forces and all that. I think it's more fun to play that way. Okay, so on that note, I don't know whether we're going to actually do 38 carriers before the war. I'm going to put some carriers at the bottom of the queue, mostly so I don't forget. So we'll build the illustrious class of carriers. Maybe one more. Yeah. These 4 carriers historically, by the way, I'm doing this kind of as historical flavor as well. The illustrious class was a very, very successful class of carrier. I think most people, when they think of when they think of like famous World War II aircraft carriers, are going to be thinking of the Japanese carriers and the American carriers, and rightfully so. I mean, those were obviously the 2 nations that really solidified the carrier's reputation. But the UK built some very, very good carriers. The United Kingdom, I mean, the aircraft carrier was kind of an international invention. The United States, the UK, and Japan all contributed to its kind of inception as a naval concept. But the UK were really early pioneers. They built really the first functional carriers, the first modern carriers, and in the Second World War, their carriers, specifically the illustrious class, I think saw more action than any other class of carrier in the war. I think, if I recall correctly, the UK lost some of their carriers in the early part of the war, notably to submarines, and they hadn't really quite figured out how to properly put use them in their fleets, especially whenever they used them in isolation, or they didn't provide them with proper escorts, and they also didn't have the best carrier aircraft at the start of the war, but they got better over time, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. The UK really were pioneers in carrier, sort of the carrier fleet strategies and stuff. Specifically, they had these really great armored aircraft carriers, so that at the end of the war, even the illustrious class, which was, I believe, a 1936 or 1937 design, those carriers fared remarkably well against Japanese, specifically the kamikazes, because the planes just, when American carriers got hit, they had wooden flight decks. When they got hit by Japanese kamikazes, they would be out of action for quite some time, whereas the armored flight decks of the British carriers, the kamikazes would just bounce off of them. So they did quite well. All right, it's 37. I'm just gonna check and see if I have any new ministers. I don't think I do, to be honest. Yeah, nothing of note here. I think we're in good shape. And I think I'm gonna end this episode because we've just passed into a new year. Before we do that, though, let's do a quick organization of the Navy. So on our fleet carriers, I want to combine these. By the way, we have 3 fleet, like full-size carriers, and we have 3 escort carriers. Some of these are very low level, but they're still going to have their uses, especially as our carrier air groups get better. So I'm just going to, I want to merge those because I don't want to use 2 leaders for these carriers. I'm going to give some of the best, some of our most modern light cruisers to this kind of early war carrier squadron. I'm going to make some battle fleets. Just kind of do mixed fleets. So take a look at what we have maybe. Maybe I'll take a look at what we have. Maybe we'll actually make the fleets next episode, because it is going to take a while. That would be a good way to open next episode. So let's take a look at what we have. I've already separated out the transports. We have 3 fleet carriers, which are the Courageous class, and we've got another 4 in the queue, which won't be finished by the time the war starts, but maybe at least one of them. We have 10 World War I era battleships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have the Nelson and Rodney, which are what they call treaty battleships. So they were built under the restrictions of the naval treaties, the Washington and London naval treaties in the interwar period. So these are interwar battleships. Pretty good though. Pretty decent battleships, level 3. Certainly not as good as kind of the Bismarck Tirpitz class of battleships, but they'll be useful. We also have the Hood class of battle cruisers. The Renown class is essentially the same class. I think if we upgrade one thing, they'll be. I think it's the anti-aircraft armament that hasn't upgraded. Yeah. So once we upgrade the anti-aircraft on these, they'll be the same level as the Hood. Yeah. So 3 of those, quite useful. And then these 3. There's the Hermes class, these 2, and I guess the Eagle class. And then we have 16 of these level 2 heavy cruisers, and they're surprisingly useful. We're going to be kind of mixing those into our fleets. We have a whole ton of level 1 kind of World War I era light cruisers, as well as what the game calls it, I think, the Leander class of light cruisers. We've got, I don't know, we've got a dozen or so of these. I think historically it was actually called the Ajax class. And this would have been I believe early 1930s class of light cruiser that was quite successful, I think, during the war. And then we have a mix of level 1 and level 2 destroyer classes. So, and I think we've got about a dozen or so of the level 2 ones, and we've got like 20 of the level 1 ones. And then in terms of submarines, we have these level 2 Swordfish class submarines, and we've got the Triton class. And as I mentioned, we built one more, but we're just going to stick with these 10 subs, and I don't think we'll build any subs for the remainder of the game. So that gives you a sense of what we have in terms of our Navy, and I think at the beginning of next episode, I will start right away with organizing that into fleets and showing you guys what kinds of fleets I'm going to be using in the game, because that is one of the most fun parts of the UK, is you get this big Navy to play with. Even if it's out of date, you can really put it to good use, and we're going to do that. So thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Check out my other playlists as well, my other Let's Play series, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.